What's good, people? Agent Juice reporting for duty. Today's episode of Making Cartoons features a very special character in my cartoon of Meanie and Happyland. The eccentric, the effervescent, the moondreamer herself, Princess Solara. Princess Solara is the current sovereign deity of Yewforia. After the passing of her father, King Guthenbert, who was also the original god of Yewforia, Princess Solara assumed the responsibilities of rulership and has basically been running the place ever since. And as of this point of the story, that is all our characters know about her. So with that brief introduction out of the way, let's go ahead and talk design. Princess Solara has quite a bit in common with two very specific characters that I've introduced before, those being our main character Adon and his mother Sakura. Much like Sakura, Princess Solara acts as the ruler of her respective universe and is thus treated as the de facto authority in that realm. However, Princess Solara, unlike Sakura and quite like Adon, is not a full-blooded god, but rather a demigod. So being a demigod, her design is going to have two main traits similar to Adon. The first feature, as is evidenced even in the early stages of the Speedpaint and the gesture lines, is her taller than average height. For those of you who've been watching me make these character speed paints, you notice how I always start off with these using translucent images of Adon and Melody in the background. This is mainly to measure the heights of the characters. The vast majority of the critters in Yewforia fall around Melody's height, which is a pretty average height for the species. Adon and Princess Solara, however, come from divine lineage, and thanks to those mighty genetics, they stand head and shoulders taller than mere mortal critters. Now, as a brief aside, that's not to say that there aren't mortal critters that are also tall. It's just that being a demigod guarantees you'll be taller than the norm of your species. So yeah, first point in Princess Solara's design is to make her more close to Adon's height rather than Melody's height. The second main feature in Princess Solara's design is her non-organic looking limbs. For those that are unaware, in the lore of Meanie and Happyland, gods are meant to look like machines or living statues as opposed to organic flesh and blood mortal creatures. Demigods, therefore, share aspects of both gods and mortals. This is why Adon, in his original form, and Solara both have strange robot limbs, but the rest of their bodies are made of fleshy bits. Now, height and robo parts are great for explaining Solara's birth features, but let's go ahead and talk about her personality-based design features. Even though Solara is a princess, I didn't want to put her in an elegant dress or make her strike some kind of regal and majestic pose. On the contrary, I purposefully went out of the way to dress her in something plain and low-key, and I wanted the initial pose to be lackadaisical and just a touch off-kilter. The reason why I do this is because if I were to describe Solara in one word, I would say that she is a hippie. She's mellow, low-maintenance, dreamy, and rather eccentric. And as a quick note, even though I describe Solara as a hippie, it doesn't mean like she's going to talk like the stereo hippie with like the, oh, far out, man, and whoa, dude, and all the other hippie, tree-hugging hippie crap that you'd expect. If anything, if I could swing it, I would actually like her to be voiced by Imogen Heap. What you say? Anyway, at this point, that's actually all I can say about her. So, thanks for watching. Deuces. You fools! That's not the end. But there is a reason why I'm sort of holding back information on her personality and what she's going to be doing. And this ties into the beginning of this video where I describe Solara as a special character. She is special in this case, well, in many cases, but in this case because she is the first character in Meanie and Happyland that I've shown you guys who doesn't technically show up in the pilot. Everyone else, from Adon to Melody to even Mr. Jenkins and Sakura, show up with a speaking part in the pilot. And not only do they show up with speaking parts, they all show up with speaking parts within the first couple of acts of the pilot. So nothing terribly secret is being revealed when I describe everyone else's personality and design features. Princess Solara, however, does not show up in the pilot herself, but she is mentioned and we do see what she looks like. But we don't get to see how she acts until later in the series, so I'm saving details on that to allow you good people to see it for yourself when the project gets made one day. Despite this, I did kind of reveal a large part of the twist of her personality being that, you know, she's supposed to be a princess, but she doesn't act like a princess. Oh, it's not like that's ever been done before, right? I'm so clever! But I don't think that it's a big deal to show you guys that part of her, because if I were to rely on that twist to be some kind of big, shocking reveal, then I would be relying on her breaking conventions too much. and not relying enough on her actual character winning over the audience like a good writer should be doing. Anyway, I think it's time to segue into some coloring, shall we? Now, for you regular viewers, you know that it's usually at this point that I reveal that I've been stealing the color palette from an earlier design. So I bet you're assuming that I'm going to be doing the same thing this time around. No! You are wrong! You make fool of self! You make ass of you and me! Banish that foolish thought! It is no good! No, the color palette is something I figure out for the first time, as you will see at some point in this video. I did, however, do the line work of Solara's first pass, as can be seen here. And you probably noticed that when I make her initial designs, I reference said initial design multiple times. But for her color palette, I wanted it to be a bit of an antithesis to Adon's color scheme, mainly in her eyes and hair. If you guys watched my Willard speed paints, you'll recall a point where I said that I was changing his initial blue eyes to something else because I was reserving blue eyes for another character. Well, Solara is that character that gets to have the blue eyes. Why is it so damn important that Solara be the one with blue eyes? Yeah, you know, it's not that big of a reason, really. I want to give Solara blue eyes and blue hair because Adon has red eyes and red hair. And I really like that red-blue dichotomy that you see with characters like Dante and Virgil from Devil May Cry, for example. With that in mind, I then decided that it would behoove me to create a color palette based on that blue. And so I aimed for a slew of slightly muted, cool colors to add to the rest of her design. Following this concept of visual antithesis to Adon, I thought about what color I would make her god limbs. And I didn't want to do the same silver and gold metallic look that I did with Adon. Instead, I decided that rather than her limbs be made out of metal, I wanted them to look like they were made out of like a combination of ceramic and crystal. And full disclosure, a big part of that particular choice was influenced by Alita Battle Angel. Because I've said it before, great artists steal. Anyway, yeah. I wanted that material differentiation to kind of diversify the look of different deities and what they may or may not be made out of. Plus, I think the look matches Solara's ensemble a bit better. For her dress, I went with a kind of earthy green to continue the whole muted cool color palette, but I also went with green because it stands out better from the rest of her coloring, and because, you know, green is earthly and of nature and something you'd expect from a tree-hugging hippie. Beyond that, I don't want too many color accents on the dress, so I can maintain the elegant simplicity that I have going on with her. Alrighty, to sum up this whole shtick, Princess Solara is a character that's not supposed to be a typical conventional princess, but not in the usual subversion of said trope where she's like, oh, look at me, I'm a tough girl and I don't want to be a princess. I wanted to do a different subversion of typical, stereotypical princess. And I also wanted someone who was, you know, flighty and offbeat, as a means of setting a demeanor that's meant to be a bit of a contrast to Adon's staunch warrior-like stoicism. And even though she won't appear fully in the pilot, I still want to communicate the basics about her as a means of laying down some groundwork for future stories. Basically, I want this design to say, "Oh, hello there. I'm sorry I didn't see you. You see, I was a bit caught up in a little something I've been working on. Oh yes, I suppose you could say my head is a bit high up in the clouds and I may come across as a bit aloof and absent-minded. But I assure you I'm qualified for handling all of my responsibilities. It's just that sometimes I'm elsewhere." Just real quickly, I do apologize for butchering the British accent, but a lot of these characters I make have funny voices that I have to do off the cuff to give you an example, so, cut a brother some slack. So, plebeians, have I succeeded in communicating a character that isn't even going to have a speaking part in my pilots, and that you probably won't see for a long-ass time anyway? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoy my content and wish to see more, do yourselves a favor and press the holy buttons to appease the algorithm and guarantee prosperity and the end of world hunger, maybe? I don't know. But I do know you can also follow me elsewhere on both mainstream and alternative social media sites. Links in the description box down below as per usual. And with all that said, I thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you guys stick around. And until next time, diggity diggity deuces.